Static sounds like screaming if you listen to it long enough. I know that sounds crazy. But when you've spent 3 days listening to nothing but static, trying to find a signal, any signal, trying to reach someone who can tell you where you are or where your unit is or if anyone's even still alive, the static starts to sound like voices, like screaming. Sometimes I still hear it, in the rain, in the hiss of a radiator, in the white noise between stations when I'm driving. It's always there, always will be. My name is Marcus Webb, Private First Class, United States Army, 2nd Infantry Division. I was a radio operator, the eyes and ears of my company, they called us. The lifeline to command, to artillery support, to air support, to everything that kept us alive. Until I lost contact, until the storm came and took everything away, until I became deaf and blind and useless while my buddies died around me. 7 years ago, November 1950, Korea. I grew up in rural Georgia, Macon specifically. Small town, tobacco farms, not much else. My daddy ran a general store on Main Street. I was supposed to take it over eventually, keep it in the family like his daddy had done. But I got drafted in '49, 19 years old, fresh out of high school. They sent me to Fort Benning for basic training, then to signal school at Fort Gordon. Turned out I had a knack for radio equipment, could fix things, understand the technical side. They made me a radio operator. Seemed like good duty at the time. Stay behind the lines, call in coordinates, keep the brass informed. Safer than being infantry, they told us. Radio operators had higher survival rates. They were lying, or maybe they just didn't know yet what Korea would be like. I shipped out to Korea in September 1950. The war had been going on since June, and by September, we were winning. MacArthur had landed at Incheon. We'd broken out of the Pusan perimeter. We were pushing north. The brass said we'd be home by Christmas. Another lie. My unit was Company C, 2nd Battalion, 38th Infantry Regiment. Good men, mostly. Our CO was Captain Morrison, a West Point graduate who'd fought in the Pacific during World War II. Tough but fair. Our platoon leader was Lieutenant Chen, a Chinese-American from San Francisco. Smart guy, good officer, looked out for his men. And there was Sergeant Miller, our platoon sergeant. Career Army, fought in Europe during the war. He'd survived the Battle of the Bulge. Figured he could survive anything. I was attached to headquarters platoon. Me and my radio, following the command group, maintaining communications with battalion, with other companies, with anyone who needed to reach us or we needed to reach. The SCR-300 was my world. 35 pounds of vacuum tubes and batteries in a backpack, with a handset that looked like a telephone. Range of about 3 miles on flat terrain, less in mountains. Temperamental as hell. The tubes would break if you dropped it. The batteries would die in the cold. Moisture would short out the circuits. But it was what we had. It was the thread that connected us to the rest of the Army. As long as I could transmit and receive, we weren't alone. My radio buddy was a kid from Ohio named Tommy Breslin. 20 years old, always joking, always trying to keep spirits up. He carried the spare batteries and backup equipment. We were a team. Where I went, he went. We became friends fast. Had to, when you're living that close. We'd share cigarettes, trade stories about home, complain about the food and the cold and the sergeants. Normal soldier stuff. By November, we were deep in North Korea, pushing toward the Yalu River, toward the Chinese border. MacArthur said the Chinese wouldn't intervene, said we'd be home by Christmas. He was wrong about that, too. The Chinese hit us on November 25th. Hundreds of thousands of them pouring across the border, caught us completely off guard. Suddenly, we weren't advancing anymore. We were retreating, running for our lives. The weather turned at the same time. Winter came early and hard to North Korea. Temperatures dropped to 20, 30 below zero. Snow and ice everywhere. The mountains became a frozen hell. And in the middle of that hell, we were trying to retreat, while the Chinese army chased us. November 28th, 1950. We were somewhere in the mountains near the Chosin Reservoir. I don't remember the exact position. The maps didn't help much when everything was white and frozen and looked the same. We'd been fighting for 3 days straight, hit-and-run engagements with Chinese forces. We'd hold a position, get flanked, pull back, over and over. We were exhausted, low on ammunition, low on food. And it was so cold, so goddamn cold. My radio was barely working. The batteries died fast in the cold. I'd keep spares inside my jacket against my body, trying to keep them warm. But even then, we'd get maybe an hour of transmission time before they failed. Communication with battalion was sporadic. We'd get through for a few minutes, then lose the signal. Static, always static. Battalion, this is Charlie 6, over. Static, Battalion Charlie 6 requesting orders, over. More static. Sometimes we'd get through. They'd tell us to fall back to a certain position, to link up with another unit, to hold until reinforcements arrived. Then we'd lose contact again and have to navigate blind. The morning of the 28th, the weather got worse. Snow started falling. Not regular snow, a blizzard. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet. The wind was howling, the temperature plummeting. You couldn't see, couldn't hear, could barely stand upright in the wind. And we were supposed to retreat through that. Supposed to navigate through mountain passes we could barely see, while the Chinese were somewhere behind us, maybe ahead of us, maybe all around us. Captain Morrison called a halt. We couldn't move in this. Had to wait it out. I tried to raise battalion, tell them we were stopped, get updated orders. Nothing. Just static. The storm was blocking the signal. Keep trying, Morrison said. We need to know if the route is clear, if other units are coming this way. I kept trying, adjusting frequencies, adjusting the antenna, trying everything I could think of. Static, nothing but static. The storm got worse. The wind was so loud you had to shout to be heard. Snow was piling up fast. We dug in, tried to find shelter, tried to stay warm. And I kept trying to reach battalion, kept cranking that handle, kept adjusting that dial. Static. Tommy was next to me, shivering in his jacket. Anything? No, I said. Nothing. They'll get worried if they don't hear from us, he said. Yeah, I said. They will. But what could we do? The radio wasn't working. We were cut off. Alone in the mountains in a blizzard with the Chinese army somewhere nearby. That's when things went bad. Really bad. The Chinese hit us in the middle of the storm. They came out of the snow like ghosts. 1 minute we were huddled in our positions, trying to stay warm, trying to survive the blizzard. The next minute there were gunshots, shouts, shapes moving through the white. Everyone scrambled for weapons, return fire. But you couldn't see what you were shooting at. Couldn't see more than a few feet. Just shapes in the snow, muzzle flashes, chaos. Get on that radio, Morrison shouted at me. Call for support. Artillery, air, anything. I grabbed the handset, cranked the generator. Battalion Charlie 6, we are under attack, requesting immediate fire support. Over. Static, just static. Changed frequencies. Tried again. Any station. This is Charlie 6. We are under attack. Need immediate support. Over. Nothing. The storm was still blocking everything. I can't get through, I shouted to Morrison. Keep trying. The firefight intensified. Chinese soldiers were everywhere now. Close combat in the snow. You'd see a shape, shoot at it, hope it wasn't one of ours. Lieutenant Chen was moving through the positions, directing fire, trying to maintain order. I kept working the radio, different frequencies, different antennas. Nothing. The storm was too heavy. The mountains were blocking signals. Or maybe battalion was gone. Maybe everyone was gone and we were the only ones left. That thought terrified me more than the Chinese. Tommy was next to me, firing his rifle at shapes in the snow. Anything? No. Nothing. The batteries were dying. I could feel the radio losing power. Pulled out the spare batteries from inside my jacket, swapped them. Fingers so cold I could barely work the clips. Tried again. Static. The Chinese pulled back, disappeared into the storm as suddenly as they'd appeared. We'd driven them off, or they'd decided to wait. Either way, it gave us a moment to breathe. We had casualties. 3 dead, 5 wounded. Doc was working on them in the lee of a rock outcrop, trying to stop bleeding, trying to save them. Morrison gathered the officers. I could see them talking, arguing, couldn't hear over the wind. Then Morrison came over to me. "We need to move," he said. "Can't stay here. Can you reach battalion?" "No, sir. The storm's blocking everything." "Can you reach anyone?" "I haven't been able to raise anyone for 3 hours, sir." He looked worried. That scared me. Morrison never looked worried. "Keep trying. We need to know where to go, which way is clear." "Yes, sir." He moved off to organize the withdrawal. I kept working the radio. Static, always static. We started moving. Wounded on makeshift litters, everyone else carrying what they could. Moving through the blizzard, through snow that was knee-deep in places. No visibility. No sense of direction except what Lieutenant Chen could figure out with his compass. And no communication. No way to know if we were heading toward safety or walking into an ambush. I carried the radio on my back, handset in my hand, constantly trying to raise someone, anyone. "Any station, this is Charlie 6. We are withdrawing from contact. Need routing instructions. Over. Static. Battalion Charlie 6. Do you copy? Over. Static. Anybody, this is Charlie 6. Please respond. Over. Static. Tommy was next to me, helping carry some of the wounded's equipment. "Maybe they can't transmit either," he said. "Maybe it's not just us." "Maybe," I said. But I didn't believe it. This was my job, my responsibility. Keep communications open. Be the link to the rest of the army. And I was failing. We were cut off, alone, and it was my fault. The storm showed no signs of letting up. If anything, it was getting worse. The wind was tearing at us. The snow was blinding. The cold was seeping into everything. Men were starting to get frostbite. Some were stumbling, barely able to walk. We stopped in a narrow valley to rest. Everyone was exhausted. Doc reported that 2 of the wounded wouldn't make it unless we got them to a hospital soon. "How far to the nearest aid station?" Morrison asked Lieutenant Chen. "Don't know, sir. Without knowing where we are exactly, could be 5 miles, could be 20. "Radio?" I shook my head. "Still nothing, sir." Morrison looked at the sky, at the storm that showed no signs of ending, made a decision. "We keep moving. South. That's where our line should be. Keep trying that radio, Webb." "Yes, sir." We moved, 1 foot in front of the other. Through the storm, through the cold, blind and deaf and lost. And still I tried the radio. Every few minutes I'd stop, try to transmit. Different frequencies, different positions, trying to get higher ground where maybe the signal would carry better. Nothing. Static. Hours passed, maybe 4, maybe 6. Hard to tell in the storm. The column was strung out. Men were falling behind, having to be helped. One of the wounded died. We left his body by the side of the trail. No choice. Couldn't carry him. Tommy and I were near the front with Morrison and Chen. I was still trying the radio. "Charlie 6, this is Charlie 2-6. Do you copy?" I nearly dropped the handset. A voice. Faint, distorted by static, but a voice. "Charlie 2-6, this is Charlie 6. I copy. Over." Static. Then, "Your position, can't read." "Charlie 2-6, we are approximately..." I looked at Chen. He gave me coordinates based on his best guess. I transmitted them. Static, Charlie 26, did you copy our position over? More static. Then nothing. The signal was gone. But I'd made contact. For 30 seconds, I'd reached someone. We weren't alone. Did they hear us? Morrison asked. Don't know, sir. Signal was breaking up. Keep trying. See if you can raise them again. I tried. For the next hour, I tried. But that was it. That 30-second contact was all we got. At least someone knew we were alive. Someone might be looking for us. If they'd heard our transmission, if they'd understood, if they could find us in this storm. Too many ifs. Night fell. Or maybe it had been night already. Hard to tell in the storm. Everything was dark and white and howling wind. We found a small depression between some rocks, some shelter from the wind. Morrison called a halt. We couldn't keep moving in the dark. Too dangerous. We'd rest here, try to get warm, try to survive the night. I kept the radio on, monitoring frequencies, hoping to hear something. Anything. Just static. The screaming static. Hour after hour. Tommy fell asleep next to me. I stayed awake, listening, hoping. Around what I guessed was midnight, I heard something. Not on the radio, in the distance. A sound carried on the wind. Gunfire. Someone was fighting. Maybe friendlies. Maybe the Chinese. No way to know. Morrison heard it too. Webb, anything on the radio about that? No, sir. Still can't raise anyone. The gunfire continued for maybe 20 minutes, then stopped. Silence except for the wind. We didn't know what had happened. Didn't know if it mattered. Couldn't do anything about it anyway. Just sat there in the cold, listening to the wind, listening to the static, waiting for morning. Waiting to see if we'd survive another day. Morning came, gray light filtering through the storm. The blizzard had lessened slightly. You could see maybe 50 feet now instead of 20. But the wind was still howling, the temperature still brutal. We'd lost 3 more men during the night, froze to death. Just went to sleep and didn't wake up. Doc checked them, confirmed they were gone. We couldn't bury them. Ground was frozen solid, just had to leave them. Captain Morrison looked like he'd aged 20 years overnight. His face was gray with exhaustion and frostbite. But he got everyone up, got us moving. We need to find our lines, he said. We need to get these wounded to help. Webb, anything on that radio? I'd been trying all night. No, sir, nothing. Keep trying. We moved out. Maybe 40 men left now from the 60 we'd started with, moving through the snow like zombies, frostbitten, exhausted, hungry. The wounded were barely hanging on. I tried the radio every 15 minutes, different frequencies, different call signs, emergency frequencies, static, always static. Around midday, I think it was midday, we heard vehicles, the sound of engines somewhere in the distance. Ours or theirs? Lieutenant Chen asked. No way to know. Sound carried strangely in the mountains. Could be a mile away, could be 5. Webb, see if you can raise them on the radio, Morrison ordered. I tried vehicle frequencies, tank frequencies, anything mechanized, nothing. The engine sounds faded. Whatever they were gone. We kept moving. South. Always south. That's where safety should be. Should be. But what if we were turned around? What if Chen's compass was off? What if we were walking north, deeper into Chinese territory? No way to know. No way to check. The radio was dead. We were blind. Mid-afternoon, we stumbled onto a road. A real road, not just a mountain trail. It was covered in snow and ice, but it was definitely a road. Which way? Morrison asked Chen. Chen looked at his compass. This runs east-west. We should cross it. Keep heading south. But Morrison hesitated. A road means traffic, means people, maybe friendly. Webb, try the radio again. I tried. Nothing. Sir, I said, even if I can't transmit, maybe I can receive. Maybe if we're near friendly forces, I'll pick up their transmissions. I switched to receive only, scanned through frequencies. Static, static, wait, dash, dash. Voices, faint, but there. I couldn't make out words, but voices. I've got something, I said. Can't make it out, but there's traffic on this frequency. Can you tell if it's ours? I listened. The voices were speaking. I couldn't tell. Could be English, could be Chinese. The static was too heavy. I don't know, sir. Morrison made a decision. We follow the road west. Maybe we'll run into whoever's transmitting. We started following the road, staying off it, walking in the trees alongside in case it was Chinese traffic. Tommy was struggling. His feet were bad. Frostbite. He could barely walk. You okay? I asked. Yeah, he lied. I'm good. He wasn't good. None of us were good. The radio traffic continued. I kept listening, trying to make out words, trying to figure out if these were friendlies or enemy. Then I heard it. Clear as day for just a second as the static cleared. Pull back to checkpoint. English, American English. They're ours, I told Morrison. Americans on this frequency. Can you reach them? I switched to transmit. Any American station, this is Charlie 6. We are on the road approximately. I gave Chen's coordinates. Request immediate pickup, over. Static. Then, 6, didn't copy, repeat. Charlie 6 requesting pickup, I shouted into the handset. We have wounded. We are combat ineffective. Requesting immediate evacuation, over. More static, then nothing. Did they hear us? Morrison asked. I don't know, sir. Maybe. The signal's breaking up. We kept moving west along the road. Maybe whoever was transmitting would find us. Maybe they'd heard enough to send help. Maybe. An hour later, we saw them. Vehicles in the distance. American trucks and jeeps moving east on the road. We stumbled out of the trees, waving, shouting. The convoy stopped. Soldiers jumped out, weapons ready, then relaxed when they saw we were Americans. Jesus Christ, where did you come from? A sergeant asked. Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, Morrison said. We've been cut off for 2 days. Need immediate evacuation for our wounded. They got us loaded up. The wounded first, then the rest of us packed into the trucks. It was over. We'd made it. But as we drove south, away from the fighting, away from the storm, I looked back at Tommy. His feet were black with frostbite. Both feet. Doc from the convoy was looking at them, shaking his head. You're going to lose them, Doc said to Tommy. Both feet. I'm sorry. Tommy just nodded. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just nodded. My radio buddy. Lost both his feet because we'd gotten cut off. Because I couldn't maintain communications. Because the storm had blocked my signal. My fault. My responsibility. We reached a field hospital that evening. They took the wounded immediately, including Tommy. I tried to follow, but a nurse stopped me. Are you wounded? No, my buddy, if you're not wounded, you need to go to the processing tent. They'll check you out there. I went, got checked for frostbite. My fingers and toes were bad but salvageable. Got hot food, hot coffee. Got a place to sleep. But I couldn't sleep. Kept hearing the static. Kept seeing Tommy's blackened feet. Kept thinking about the 3 days we'd been cut off. 3 days. 72 hours of static. 20 men dead. A dozen more wounded badly. Tommy lost his feet because I couldn't maintain communications, because the storm had cut us off and I hadn't been able to reconnect us. My job, my failure. They kept us at the field hospital for a week. Medical checks, debriefing, rest. Most of the company was there, the ones who'd made it out anyway. About 40 of us left from the original 60. Captain Morrison was evacuated to Japan. Severe frostbite and exhaustion. Lieutenant Chen took command of what remained of Charlie Company. I visited Tommy every day. He was in bad shape. They'd amputated both feet below the ankle. He'd survive, they said. Would go home, get fitted for prosthetics, would eventually walk again. But he'd never be the same. Not your fault, he said when I tried to apologize. I couldn't get through, I said, couldn't maintain contact. If I had, the storm cut us off, he said. Nothing you could do about that. But I didn't believe him. Radio operators had one job, maintain communications. I'd failed, and men had died because of it. They sent me back to the unit in December. New radio, new batteries, same job. Keep the company connected to battalion, to artillery, to the rest of the army. But something was broken inside me. Every time I keyed the mic, every time I heard static, I'd freeze up. Flash back to those 3 days in the storm, to the screaming static, to being cut off and blind and responsible for men dying. I couldn't focus, couldn't trust the equipment, couldn't trust myself. Lieutenant Chen noticed. You okay, Webb? Yes, sir. Fine, sir. You don't seem fine. Just adjusting, sir. I'll be okay. Another lie. We got a new radio operator to work with me, a kid from Texas named Rodriguez. Eager, competent, knew his stuff. They said it was to help with the workload, but I knew the truth. They didn't trust me anymore. Needed backup in case I failed again. Can't blame them. I didn't trust me either. Christmas 1950. We were dug in somewhere south of the 38th parallel. The Chinese had pushed us all the way back. All the gains we'd made, Pyongyang, the advance to the Yalu, all gone. We were back where we'd started. The brass sent us Christmas dinner. Turkey and mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. Tried to make it festive. But we were in frozen foxholes eating cold turkey out of mess kits while Chinese artillery pounded positions a mile to the north. Merry Christmas. I wrote a letter to Tommy. They'd sent him back to the States for recovery. Walter Reed Hospital in D.C. I told him I was sorry. Told him I should have done better. Told him it was my fault. He wrote back in January, said to stop blaming myself, said he was doing okay, learning to walk with the prosthetics, said he'd be fine, didn't make me feel better. The winter of 1950 to 51 was brutal. Not just the fighting, though there was plenty of that, but the cold, 20, 30 below zero. Men were losing fingers and toes to frostbite. Weapons would freeze. Batteries would die, including radio batteries. I became obsessed with keeping the batteries warm, carried them inside my jacket, slept with them, checked them constantly, terrified they'd die at a crucial moment, terrified I'd lose contact again. Rodriguez thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. Webb, we got spares, he'd say. You don't need to baby them like that. But I did. Because last time the batteries had died, men had died. Last time I'd lost contact, we'd been cut off, and 20 men had frozen to death or been killed. Couldn't let that happen again. We advanced north again in the spring, part of a new offensive. Radio discipline was tight, constant contact with battalion, regular check-ins, redundant frequencies. I was on the radio constantly, every 15 minutes. Battalion Charlie 6, sitrep normal, over. Even when there was nothing to report, even when everything was fine, had to maintain contact, had to know we weren't cut off. Webb, you're wearing yourself out, Chen said. Rodriguez can take some of those shifts. I'm fine, sir. You're not sleeping. You're not eating right. You're going to collapse. I'm fine, sir. Just doing my job. He didn't push it. But I saw him and Rodriguez talking. Saw them looking at me with concern. They thought I was breaking down. Maybe I was. But I couldn't stop. Couldn't risk losing contact again. Couldn't risk another storm, another 3 days of static, another Tommy losing his feet. Summer came. The war settled into a stalemate, fighting up and down the same hills, same valleys, gaining ground, losing ground, nothing changing. And I kept my radio operational, kept communications open, never missed a check-in, never lost contact. But I wasn't sleeping. Would lie awake at night, listening to the radio, just in case, just to make sure we were still connected. The static in the quiet hours sounded like screaming, like the wind in the storm, like Tommy crying when they told him about his feet. August 1951. My rotation was up, 13 months in Korea. I'd done my time. They were sending me home. I should have been relieved, happy. But all I felt was guilt. I was going home. Tommy was home with no feet. 20 men from Charlie Company were dead. And I was going home like nothing had happened. Rodriguez shook my hand. Stay safe, Webb. Thanks for teaching me the ropes. Keep the batteries warm, I told him, and never, ever lose contact. He looked confused. Okay, man, I won't. Lieutenant Chen gave me a small ceremony, thanked me for my service, said I'd done a good job. I hadn't, but I accepted his thanks. What else could I do? I flew home in September, processed out at Fort Lewis, got my discharge papers, was officially a civilian again. Everyone said I was lucky. Survived Korea, made it home in one piece, could get on with my life. But I didn't feel lucky. Felt like a fraud, like I'd abandoned the radio, abandoned my post, abandoned my responsibility, like I'd left them all behind to deal with the static while I went home. I went back to Macon in October 1951. My parents threw a welcome home party. Friends and neighbors came by, shook my hand, thanked me for my service. I smiled and nodded and felt nothing. My daddy wanted me to start working at the store. Learn the business, get back to normal life. I tried. Lasted 3 weeks. Couldn't do it. Couldn't stand there stocking shelves and ringing up customers while men were still fighting in Korea. While Tommy was learning to walk on prosthetics. While the static still screamed in my head. I got a job at the county telecommunications office instead. Working on telephone lines and equipment. Figured maybe if I was working with communications, it would help. Would feel like I was still doing something useful. Didn't help. Every time I worked on a line, every time I heard static on a bad connection, I'd freeze up, flash back to the storm, to the 3 days of being cut off, to the screaming static. My supervisor noticed. You okay, Marcus? You seem distracted. I'm fine. Just adjusting to civilian life. You were in Korea, right? Heard that was rough. Yeah, it was rough, yeah. He didn't push. But I saw him watching me, saw him giving me the easier jobs, the ones that didn't require focus. I was becoming useless. Again. November 1951. 1 year since the storm. Since we'd been cut off. Since I'd failed. I couldn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed, listening to the rain on the roof. It sounded like static, like the wind in the storm, like screaming. I got up, paced around my room, felt like the walls were closing in, like I was back in that narrow valley with the storm raging and the radio dead and men dying around me. Had to get out, had to move. I walked out into the rain, just walked. No destination, no purpose, just walking because staying still was impossible. Ended up at the Western Union office downtown. They were open late. I went in, asked to send a telegram to Tommy at Walter Reed. The clerk gave me a form. I stared at it. What could I say? What words could possibly matter? I wrote, "I'm sorry. I should have done better." Sent it. Walked back out into the rain. Tommy responded 2 days later. His telegram said, "Stop apologizing. Not your fault. You did your best." But what if my best wasn't good enough? What if my best had gotten men killed? I started drinking in December. Not heavily at first. Just a beer after work to help me sleep. Then 2 beers, then whiskey, then whatever it took to silence the static in my head. My parents noticed. "Marcus, we're worried about you." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You came back different. We want to help." "Nobody can help. Just leave me alone." I pushed them away, pushed everyone away. Easier that way. Easier than explaining what it was like to be responsible for men's lives and fail them. Easier than talking about the static. January 1952. I got fired from the telecommunications job. Showed up drunk too many times. Couldn't focus. Made too many mistakes. "I'm sorry, Marcus," my supervisor said, "but I can't keep you on like this. You need help. Professional help." Maybe he was right, but I didn't care. Just took my final paycheck and left. Started doing odd jobs around town. Handyman work. Anything that didn't require communication. Didn't require responsibility. Didn't require me to connect anyone to anything. February 1952. Got a letter from Lieutenant Chen. He'd survived his rotation, was back stateside. Wanted to know how I was doing. Said Rodriguez was doing a good job with the radio. Said the company was doing fine. I didn't write back. What would I say? That I was falling apart? That I couldn't function? That the static was still screaming in my head? March 1952. I tried to kill myself. Didn't plan it. Wasn't a decision I made consciously. Just found myself sitting in my room with my daddy's pistol, thinking how easy it would be. How it would stop the static, stop the guilt, stop everything. I sat there for 2 hours with that gun, safety off, round-chambered, barrel under my chin. Couldn't do it. Too much of a coward even for that. Put the gun down. Broke down crying. First time I'd cried since coming home. My mother found me like that. Crying on the floor with the pistol on the bed. She didn't say anything. Just sat down next to me and held me while I sobbed. I couldn't save them, I told her. The radio died and I couldn't save them. "I know, baby. I know. 20 men died because I failed. You didn't fail. You did your job. Sometimes bad things happen and it's nobody's fault. But it felt like my fault. Still feels like my fault." She made me see a doctor, a psychiatrist from Atlanta who specialized in treating veterans. He talked to me for hours, asked about Korea, about the storm, about the static. He said I had something called combat fatigue. Said lots of veterans experienced it. Said it was treatable with time and therapy. But therapy didn't stop the static. Didn't stop the nightmares. Didn't stop the guilt. April 1952. Tommy came to visit me. He'd heard I was struggling. Took a train down from D.C., where he was living now, working at the Veterans Administration. He walked into my parents' house on prosthetic feet. Walked better than I'd expected. Sat down across from me. "You look like hell," he said. "Thanks." "Marcus, you gotta stop this. Stop blaming yourself. I lost contact. We got cut off. You lost your feet because of it." "I lost my feet because it was 30 below zero and we were in a blizzard," he said. "Nothing to do with the radio. If I'd maintained contact, we would have still been in that blizzard, still been cut off, still been freezing. The radio didn't cause the storm. You didn't cause what happened. But listen to me," he said. "I don't blame you. Captain Morrison doesn't blame you. Nobody who was there blames you. The only person blaming you is you. I should have done better. You did everything you could. Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes things go wrong and it's nobody's fault. That's war. That's life. He stayed for 3 days. We talked about Korea, about the storm, about what happened after, about how we both had to figure out how to live with it. It helped. A little. Not enough, but a little. When he left, he made me promise to keep trying, keep going to therapy, keep fighting to get better. I promised. Not sure I meant it, but I promised. It's November 1952 now, 2 years since the storm. 2 years since I lost contact with my unit for 3 days and 20 men died. I'm still here, still in Macon, still struggling. The therapy helps some. The psychiatrist has me on medication, some new drug that's supposed to help with anxiety and nightmares. Takes the edge off. Doesn't fix anything, but takes the edge off. I got a job working for the county, maintenance on county buildings, simple work, physical work. No radios, no communication equipment, no responsibility for connecting anyone to anything. It's what I can handle right now. Maybe it's what I'll always handle. I still hear the static. In the rain. In between radio stations in my truck. In the hiss of steam pipes. It's always there. Probably always will be. But I'm learning to live with it. Learning that it's just sound, just noise. Not screaming, not actual voices, just static. Most days I believe that. I stay in touch with Tommy. We write letters every month. He's doing well. Got married last year. Working at the VA. Helping other veterans get their benefits. Making something good out of what happened to him. I'm proud of him. Wish I could do the same. Lieutenant Chen writes sometimes, too. He stayed in the Army, career officer now. Says he never doubted me. Says I did my job well. Says the storm was just bad luck. I want to believe him. Some days I almost do. Rodriguez is still in Korea. He's on his 2nd rotation. Volunteered to go back. His letters say he's doing fine. Says he thinks about what I taught him. Says he always keeps the batteries warm. That makes me smile. At least something I did mattered. My parents are supportive. They see I'm trying. They don't push me to be who I was before. They just accept who I am now. That helps more than they know. I went to a veterans meeting last month. VFW post in town. Other Korea veterans, some World War II guys, sitting around, talking, not talking, just being together. One guy asked me what I did in Korea. I told him I was a radio operator. That's a tough job, he said. A lot of responsibility. Yeah, I said. It was, you do good work? I thought about it. About the storm. About losing contact. About the static. But also about all the times I maintained communications. All the artillery strikes I called in. All the times I connected the company to the rest of the Army. All the lives that were saved because I did my job right. I did my best, I said. That's all anyone can do. He nodded. That's right. That's all anyone can do. Maybe he's right. Maybe doing your best is enough, even when your best isn't perfect, even when things go wrong, even when people die. Maybe. I still have nightmares, still dream about the storm, about the static, about being cut off and blind and watching men die, about Tommy's feet turning black with frostbite, about the bodies we left by the side of the trail. But I also dream about making contact, about that 30-second transmission to Charlie 26, about the moment when the convoy found us, about reaching someone through the static. Those dreams are better. Those dreams remind me that I didn't completely fail, that I kept trying, that I got us home. Most of us, anyway. I visited Tommy in D.C. last month, met his wife. She's nice. Good for him. She knows what happened. He told her everything. But she doesn't treat him like he's broken. Treats him like he's strong. Like he survived something and kept going. Maybe that's what we did. Maybe we survived and kept going. Maybe that's enough. We went to the memorial they're building for Korea. Not finished yet, but they showed us the plans. A place to remember the men who died. A place to honor their sacrifice. Tommy and I stood there looking at the plans, and I thought about the 20 men from Charlie Company who didn't make it out of those mountains. Thought about how they'd be part of this memorial. How people would remember them. They deserve it, Tommy said. Yeah, I said. They do. So do we, he said. We deserve to be remembered, too. Not just for failing, for trying, for surviving, for coming home and figuring out how to live with it. Maybe he's right. Maybe survival counts for something. Maybe the fact that I'm still here, still trying, still fighting to be okay. Maybe that matters. The static is still there. Probably always will be. Some nights it's louder than others. Some days I can barely function through it. But I'm still here, still breathing, still alive. I'm not the person I was before Korea. That Marcus Webb died in a storm in November 1950. Died listening to static while men froze around him. This Marcus Webb is different, damaged, broken in ways that might never fully heal, but still here, still trying. I work my job. I see my psychiatrist. I take my medication. I write to Tommy and Rodriguez and Lieutenant Chen. I go to the VFW meetings. I try to sleep without nightmares. I try to live without guilt. Some days are better than others. Some days the static is quieter. Some days I can almost believe that I did my best, and that's enough. Other days I hear the static screaming, hear the wind in the storm, hear Tommy crying about his feet, hear Captain Morrison asking if I've made contact, hear myself saying, no, I can't get through, I can't reach anyone. Those days are hard. Those days I wonder if I'll ever really be okay. If I'll ever stop hearing the static. If I'll ever stop feeling responsible for those 20 men. But I keep going, because Tommy's right. Because doing your best is enough. Because survival counts for something. Because the alternative is giving up, and I've come too far to give up now. I lost contact with my unit for 3 days in November 1950. 20 men died in that storm. My radio buddy lost both his feet. It wasn't entirely my fault. The storm blocked the signal. The equipment failed. The situation was impossible. But I was responsible. That was my job. Keep communications open. Keep the unit connected. And I failed. I have to live with that. Have to carry those 20 men with me. Have to carry the guilt and the static and the memories. But I also have to live. Have to keep trying. Have to honor their memory by surviving, by moving forward, by figuring out how to be okay. I'm not there yet, not okay. Maybe I never will be. But I'm trying. And for now, that has to be enough. The static still sounds like screaming if you listen to it long enough. But sometimes, on good days, it's just static. Just noise. Just the sound of a signal trying to get through. And maybe that's what we all are. Signals trying to get through. Trying to connect. Trying to reach each other through the static and the storms and the distance. Sometimes we make contact, sometimes we don't. But we keep trying. And we keep transmitting it. We keep hoping someone hears us, and maybe that's enough.